Okie dokie, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Shaw right here on Love Wrestling. I'm Kyle Shaw, aka the Canadian Goose, and joining me on this week's episode of Monday Night Shaw is one of the professional wrestling referees out of British Columbia. I have on the show today, Mr. Joe King.
Hey,
Joe,
man, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm glad to hear you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too, buddy. I actually I interviewed Colton G a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah,
and then
he's a great guy.
I'm actually interviewing him again because the recording was deleted by accident. So he's actually going to be coming on right after I'm done with you. I just wanted to your name came up because like you're on the Twitter and stuff, and so I see you, and I basically was just popping for your name.
Thank you.
So is that like how did you come up with the name Joe King? I'm assuming it's not your shoot name?
Yeah, no. It's funny. I was just kind of like playing around with a few things. I wanted to come up with this other name, and I was talking to Cobra Kai, and I was like, "Hey, what do you think of this name?" And he's just like, "No," like horrible. So
really?
I started.
What was that name?
Oh, I don't even want to say it. It's so bad. It was Jack Spade. It's just a horrible name.
I'm pretty sure there's an MPW guy named Jack Spade.
Oh no, I'm sorry. So it was a bad name for me, is what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
especially
fair enough.
if there's someone else with a name. So like I used to have a friend, and her last name was King, and I used to kind of play around with her name a little bit. So then I was just kind of playing around, and I always like that. There used to be that commercial. It was like Just Incredible, right? And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like, how do you come up with like a name that kind of means something else? And and then it kind of popped into my head. I'm like, oh, Joe King. Like, that's just so. And it's one of those names too that like people don't quite realize it. They'll say it or they'll read it and they're like, oh, Joe King. And then one day they'll be like, yeah, that Joe King. And they'll be like, oh my goodness, now I got it. So
yeah, there's a lot of like really great like pun names like that, kind of like Harley Race is one that first comes to mind.
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes, so I really appreciate that. How did you get involved in refereeing matches in BC?
Well, that's a long story. Good thing I guess we're on a podcast, right? Well, it's not that long.
Yeah.
It was just something like wrestling's always been like a major point in my life, right? For the last like 25, 30 years. It's always been, my constant, something that I've always been paying attention to and watching. And I've always wanted to kind of like be involved and contribute to it somehow. And it's just kind of like with my partner, she knew Cobra Kai and Calamity Kate and stuff like that, because she's a burlesque performer, producer, and they were at one of her shows, and I was just kind of talking to both of them and about like how I really wanted to kind of like I was like refereeing is probably the best way for me to kind of get into this industry. So I was talking to Cobra Kai and Kate about this and just how I wanted to do it. And they go, hey, why don't you come down and start training with us? And, because we are not going to let you in the ring unless you, know at least the fundamentals. There's a lot going in and you need to know proper positioning and everything like that. And I was like, yeah, I jumped on that. Right. So back in 2019, Steve, I used to go over to his house, or he'd come over and pick me up, and we'd drive all the way to Surrey, and we'd train for like 3 hours every Wednesday and Sunday. And I was training with a lot of the Glam Slam people at that time as well. And yeah, I was just working really, really hard to get that shot to kind of like have the performers trust me enough that I can be in that ring, and be it in safely and stuff like that. So. It's something I've definitely worked hard to get to.
Solid. Can I don't know, like, can you kind of describe like the differences between training to be a referee and training to be a wrestler?
Actually, there's not a lot of difference, right? So the first thing I was doing, like you do the classic like burpees and rolls. I'm doing everything that the wrestlers are doing, right? I don't, with Steve, he was always talking about like he'll never make us do something that he won't do. And I was just it's kind of the same thing. You have to know the fundamentals, right? When you're in the ring with those with the wrestlers, there's a sequence of events that's kind of going on, right? And you kind of have to kind of know what's the move, what's the next move, what's the move after that, right? So the best thing to do is to get in there and learn these moves with the wrestlers and kind of learn your ring awareness, right? Because that's like a lot of it as well, right? Like when you're doing your cartwheels and stuff like that, you kind of get a little bit discoordinated and stuff, and a lot can happen in the ring where you might get knocked over by accident, or you'll have to take something, right? And you have to know where you're at all time, because it's a very dangerous thing to be in that squared circle. So
yeah, 100%. So does he have you taking bumps and chain wrestling and stuff?
Yeah, I was taking bumps, soft, like I was only able to train for about 6 months until everything kind of got shut down. But yeah, I was taking back bumps and front bumps, and doing everything that the wrestlers were, like, in a safe, where I should be, as far as learning. So we're all doing that. We're training for about 2 hours or so, and then like the last half hour or so, it's okay, let's have a match on the moves that we all just learned today, right? And it was Joe, get in there and be the referee for these things, right? So it's kind of like, now for the last 2 hours we just did this particular routine of wrestling, right? So now I'm learning that and learning where I should be standing at the same time, so that I'm not in the way of these guys and girls.
That's solid. I mean, I have refereed some matches, and my refereeing came about completely differently than yours. I was actually ring announcing at a show, which I was known as a ring announcer, and I had some wrestling training under my belt. I think I already had like some out of town matches and stuff. But one day I was ring announcing, and one of our referees, I guess, got upset and decided he was going to leave the show. And so the promoter came up to me and was like, "Kyle, so-and-so is taking off, and I really need a ref. Can you ref?" And I was like, "Well, I've never done it before, but I'll give it a try." And so they just ended up throwing me right in there. And like I say, like I did have some like actual like wrestling training and stuff. So
it's so important to have that.
Yeah, it went well. Yeah, I don't think anybody like was like super angry that I ruined their match or anything. There was a couple of little things that like I just didn't realize. Like it was, in my mind, it was like, okay, you keep your hands off the wrestlers and stuff. And then I was doing a tag match, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, hold me back," and I was like, "Hey, stay back." And he meant like physically hold him back, right? And so I kind of got talking to about that. But I mean, other than that, it seemed to go okay. But it was definitely like a different experience for me, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing with, you got to get your 10,000 hours in, right? And just kind of like looking back at some of my matches from previous, where I was like really, really happy with them and stuff like that. Well, and like I still am really happy with it, right? But kind of like where I am now, you can kind of see that, hey, there's some things that you learn that you can only kind of learn like when you're in an actual match, like those, one of those things, like, do I touch the wrestlers? Do I not touch the wrestlers? When's a good time to like get in the middle of them? Like how do I like get in the middle of two wrestlers safely and, without let them know, and like, I think it's also important, like especially if it's your first match, is it's okay to make some mistakes, like those are the times to make your mistakes, is like that first year of kind of like being a rookie, like you shouldn't always be making mistakes. You should always be trying to do better, but like, it's okay to make a few of those mistakes where, a wrestler's telling you to like hold them back and you're like, oh, kind of like this, or should I and you learn those things as you go along. And like the other thing is like every wrestler is completely different, right? And they all work completely different. So like, and the more experience you get with different wrestlers, you'll find out how they want you to kind of be their referee and how they kind of want you to communicate with them and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
And that all just
definitely.
comes
Like,
with time. Yeah.
I know that, like, there's a lot of guys that will go and they will plan the entire match, like, backstage, and then they'll go to the ring. I'm not trying to kill the magic here, but that's kind of how it works sometimes. And then there's other times where, I've shown up at shows and been like, "Hey, bud, what do you want to do tonight?" And they're like, "I'll see you out there in the ring." And you're like, "Okay," and so you kind of call it on the fly. So have you had experiences in both departments, as far as that's concerned?
100%. As I become more and more experienced as a referee, I try and take a little bit more of a step back on how much knowledge I kind of know what's going on, right? Because like the whole point of me being it is like I'm supposed to be a referee. I'm not supposed to act a referee, right? So I try and go in kind of with an open slate. I kind of have an understanding of what the feel of the match is going to be and stuff like that. But as far as of knowing details and stuff like that, I really try and stay away from that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I know the last, we just finished doing the Lucha Libre Spectacular Quattro last month, and that was a really. I knew this was going to be a really challenging couple days going in for myself, right? Because it was lucha style wrestling where, that's a lot more fast paced. Just the way you set up a show, on Saturday there was 3 mini shows, and then on Sunday there was 2 mini shows as well. So it's kind of like an all day thing. So you're kind of like having a lot of the same matches, or not the same matches, but the wrestlers will all be kind of like doing 2 or 3 matches throughout the day and stuff like that. So it was kind of during that, I kind of like really challenged myself of like, how much can I not know about this match? It's kind of like go into that match and just do my job as a referee and see how it works. And so yeah, I guess the long of it is, I've done, I've done both styles, but yeah, for myself, I like to kind of not really know what's going to happen.
Like, I know that's a thing, like, amongst the guys, like, everybody kind of is different. Like, me personally, like, I will give the ref the Iggy on what the finish is supposed to be, and like if we're gonna bump the ref or anything like that, then we're gonna obviously like let them know, hey, we would like you to do this, please.
100%.
It's not really cool to just shoot shit on referees.
No, please don't ever do that either way. Like,
but I know other guys that won't tell the ref the finish. Right? Like they just won't do it because they're like, okay, what's the finish? Oh, when I cover the other dude, count the 3 like that. I've like literally seen that in locker rooms and heard about situations like that from other referees and stuff. And what kind of like, what do you prefer? Like, do you prefer to not know what the finish is, or would you like to have some idea of? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely. I do want to know kind of like an idea of what the finish is going to look like. There's been some instances where, the finish changes inside the ring, or something happens and the finish is now changed. And it's always good to be alert and stuff like that, right? So it's good to like you were saying, like if I'm going to take a bump, or if I need to be in a position or something, of course I want to know that, right? But it's just like, as far as everything else comes, it's kind of like a natural thing, as far as the finish. Yeah. Like that happened to me, not too long ago, where I went in with an understanding of the match was going to go a particular way, and it didn't go that way. It went the complete opposite way of what my understanding was, and it completely took me by shock, and I wasn't too sure what was going on, but I still called the match the way it was, right? And I still called that 1, 2, 3, and and it worked out safely. So it's been kind of interesting. I want to know what to look for, but like I said, like the more you kind of work with these wrestlers, and their style, you kind of understand where the finish is going to be anyways. So that's kind of, but like, it's also like you want to be communicating as much as you can inside that ring as well. Like when something's happening, when things are changing on the fly too. So
100%. I mean, I can think of a situation. I had a match against, the Viking Lord Vince Austin, and this was a while ago, like maybe a couple of years ago, and our finish was supposed to be he goes for a pile driver and I pull his legs out and roll over him and cover him and pin him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I pulled his legs out and I rolled over him and rolled directly into the ropes. And then so he went out of the ring and I kind of like faded off to the other side. And like one of the aspects of having a good referee is I just told the referee, I was like, hey, tell him I'm gonna spear him. and so that's like the ref passes the message on to him and he got back in the ring and come at me and I speared him and off to the races we went. But like is that something like that you've had to learn about too, is like good taking communication through the wrestlers? Like I know a lot of times, like if you're in a double down and stuff, the ref will come over and be like 1, 2, and you can be like, hey, tell him the bump and feed's next or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, is that like a skill that you've had to master and whatnot?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I lost my track of mind for a second. 100%. That's why it's so important that you kind of like do the wrestling training as well and you learn these fundamentals, because like if you don't understand the language, it's really, really hard to communicate that to the other wrestler, right? Someone will come up, blah, 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 and you go, what? And you go, blah, 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 you go, what? And then you try and communicate it, but you don't really know. And you're trying to, you're being like, oh, do that school thing or whatever. Right. And they're going, what? Like, what do you mean in school? Like, so yeah. So as I get more and more experience in the ring, I'm communicating a lot more within the wrestlers, trying to, like there's good times when they take a hard bump or stuff like that, right? And you want to be going up and checking to see if everyone's safe and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good time that you can talk to those wrestlers and see if they're okay, and if they need a little bit more time to like stay on that ground, if they will need to switch something up at that point because something happened. So like, I'm definitely getting more and more into that. And, like after every match, I try and talk to both wrestlers afterwards and just being like, hey, how was it? How was I as a referee? Is there anything that, you think I can work on a little bit more, and that's definitely come up in the past. They're like, hey, just kind of like pay attention a little bit more because there was this point right here I needed to tell you something. And, you missed that cue and you're like, okay, that's great. Thank you. And then just, you go back in that next match and you just like pay more attention to those different cues and make sure that you're there to communicate and, that you have a level head as well too. Cause, you don't want to be like, oh, what's going on, running around and people are trying to communicate. And, especially when things, don't always go as planned, you want to make sure that you're, ready for all those types of things. And yeah.
100%. And I know another thing that I really appreciate is when the referees keep time and they give you like how far you're into the match, because like sometimes the promoter wants the match to be a certain length of time and it can be hard because you're just out there doing your you're just out there wrestling, and so you have to kind of get with these things. But also like when you have a ref that can go, hey, you're 5 minutes in, like that's really helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like half the job of a referee is being there to, communicate, to talk to both people, to talk to the timekeepers, to, to whatever happening. Like I'm the best, or not me, but referees are the best person to kind of have that as that, kind of bouncing around. That communication guy person.
Okay, another thing I wanted to ask you about, because obviously, like you say, you've been doing the actual wrestling training and stuff, and like I've seen pictures of you, and you're pretty jacked. Have you ever considered lacing up the boots and wrestling yourself?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked all the time. Especially because you see a lot of referees that kind of like being the referee, and then they kind of want to go on and do their own matches and stuff like that. At this time, I'm really loving being the referee and kind of doing the things. I am a little bit bigger of a guy, so I can kind of go in there and take some bumps if I have to. Like I enjoy having those. Like I'm a very much of a character kind of a referee, right? Like I need to be used in different situations. I can't just kind of always just be a standard referee and just kind of do those things. So it's definitely the matches that I've been doing have been a little bit different to what like a typical referee will tend to do sometimes. But for right now, like I do really enjoy being the referee and just kind of learning what I'm doing, learning the ropes as you say,
Right on. Yeah, because like I know that like typically the referee is like a smaller person. Have you ever had like guys that are like not wanting you to referee their matches because you're like more jacked than they are?
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation point. When you are bigger than a lot of the roster, you have to make sure that you're being used properly, that you're not pulling attention from the match itself. That so there are different times where I'm not going to be in those particular matches. I don't know if people are necessarily requesting not to use me. I know when people request to actually use me, but because like we're all professional and we're all trying to be business people, but yeah, like it. I do need to be used in a proper way, right? Where it's, if I'm bigger than both of the wrestlers that are in the ring, that looks weird. It looks off, right? So there has to be a reason why I'm bigger than both of the wrestlers or whatever, So it's,
It seems like it would be like you'd be best utilized as like a real authority figure, like this is the referee you probably don't want to mess around with,
Yeah, and I'm the head referee for WrestleCore, right? So I work a lot with Cobra Kai and his vision of what WrestleCore is and everything like that. Because WrestleCore is a completely different brand from your typical wrestling show. It's he really pushes different ways of doing wrestling and stuff like that. Well, obviously because the head referee is as big as myself, which you don't normally see. So it's kind of like he's telling me to like review the tapes of like MMA referees and stuff like that, and like how they insert their dominance and stuff, because a lot of those referees, they're bigger than the fighters themselves, right? So, and that's the kind of style that he wants me to bring in when I'm doing the WrestleCore matches and stuff like that, to be that bigger authority kind of person, I also do Glam Slam, which is more of like a theatrical kind of wrestling show and that type of stuff, right? So having me as kind of like that big referee just kind of like works, because it's this really unbelievable, super made up world that we're putting out there and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've seen a little bit of WrestleCore and stuff because my trainers Harlan Abbott and Michael Richard
awesome.
Blaze, they both wrestle for WrestleCore and whatnot, and also Taryn from accounting, who is Calamity Kate's sister, trains with me as well. So, I've seen some of the things coming out of there, and I think it's all really fantastic stuff. I would actually really love to come and wrestle for WrestleCore. I think it would be a lot of fun,
Yeah, definitely.
Have you had any experience wrestling for any other, or not wrestling, but refereeing for any other promotions out in BC?
I've done the majority of it is with WrestleCore, and then I've been doing shows with Glam Slam. There's this I shouldn't say new promotion. It's been out for a year now. It's called New. It's Nation Extreme Wrestling.
Yeah, I've heard of them too.
Yeah, so I go and I do. I don't. That's more of a classic kind of a wrestling type of a thing, right? So the shows that I do with them is I've done their Cinco de Mayo show, which is, a little bit of an off-brand of what they do. Last month they did at Nate Bailey Stadium, which is where the Vancouver Cannons play baseball. So we were able to do it in the middle of a baseball diamond. So I went and I did a couple matches there, because this is kind of...
Did you ref the sword fight between Kid Bandit and then?
No, I wanted to do that one so bad. That was right after the match that I did, so I got to see a little bit of it. But that was just an absolutely amazing match. It was, I actually got to see Kid again just on Friday, because they were up for the 1-year anniversary show for New as well. So it was nice to see them again, and they did. That was a great match. It was a great night altogether.
I saw some video of that, and I was absolutely like, I love that kind of stuff. Like anything that's a little like off kilter. I like like, have you seen the video of the guy twirling the pizza around while he wrestles?
Yeah. I'm Luigi.
Yes, it's so good. It's
He
so
made it onto
fantastic.
Dynamite last Wednesday. It was
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious.
I hope he gets to actually like wrestle for AEW because I'd love to see that. I actually the day that video kind of like went viral, I had a match in Saskatchewan with a fellow kid named Hollywood Dusty Adonis, and he actually proposed the idea to me of, okay, I'll go for a headbutt, and then he'll move out of the way, and we'll do the double down, and then at like 5, the chicken dance will come on, and we'll circle each other and do the chicken dance and do-si-do with the referee and stuff. And he was like, yeah, we're totally killing the business doing this, but the fans will pop for it. It'll be fun. And I was like, bro, I saw a dude twirling a pizza on Twitter today. Let's do it. Let's have, and we did. And we got a great reaction for it. I actually had a tremendous time. Like, I like that comedy kind of stuff, obviously, as a guy.
Yeah, and like
Canadian Goose.
it has its place. It definitely has its place in wrestling, and you can definitely put that into a match, and I love it. Yeah, I was just thinking about your Canadian Goose thing because you come out and you go honk honk honk, right? That's
yes. Yeah, there's a lot of honking. I'm right now in RCW. I've actually I've ventured away from the Canadian Goose, so I've changed my name to just like Kyle Shaw, and I'm just kind of a straight bad guy wrestler now.
Yeah,
but that's like only in RCW. There's other promotions that are booking me as the Canadian Goose, and I need to make money, so I'm happy to be whatever they want me to be.
Right.
on shows, but it's been a lot of fun, and I know that like I was mentioning, we do-si-doed with the ref. Is there any like interesting spots that you've been a part of that you have a good story about?
I'm I do a lot of fun, interesting spots. I make little highlight reels. Like, I get bumped all the time. Adam Ryder, he likes to abuse me a lot when I'm in the ring. So he like slaps me, or the very first bump I ever took, he's laying on the mat and he's hurt, and I go running in because there was 5 refs, right? And the first 4 refs, they all went into the ring and took a bump. And Adam's laying there, and I go running in to see if he's okay. Meanwhile, the other guy, he's up on the top turnbuckle about to give a frog splash. So Adam grabs me and puts me on top of him and makes me take that frog splash. And that was, so things like that happen. I think the most funnest one that I did recently was Zicky Dice was in town from Impact Wrestling we were doing the Circus of Death, and he got hypnotized, and he ended up choke slamming like everyone in the building. And so first he choke slams Adam Ryder, and then he goes to the ref, which was me, and he choke slams me, and then like another guy runs in and takes a choke slam. Cobra Kai runs in. There was like 10 people that got choke slammed, and that was just a lot of fun doing that. It was the first time I ever took a choke slam as well. So
is he like a big dude? Because I don't know. I'm thinking like Zicky Dice, isn't he like a he's not really like a huge guy, is he?
He's in real life, he's definitely a big guy. Like he's a lot sicker than me. Like I guess I'm a little bit taller than him. Like, I'm 6 foot, and I'd say he's a big guy. Like, he's definitely, the biggest guy that he chokeslammed was Malik, who's a big guy as well, right? And then he was the last person that he chokeslammed. So he kind of like started with me, and then he went with the smaller guys like Colton. Colton Key took a chokeslam as well that night. Yeah, he ran in to see if I was okay, and immediately took the chokeslam. And then just like the wrestlers just progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger until it was with Malik. So yeah, he's definitely a bigger guy that can throw people around. So
I'm pretty sure I met Malik. He's like a large black fella, right?
Yeah.
He came in and wrestled for RCW a couple of times. So,
yeah, he's great. Like he was. I also refereed his match at that Nate Bailey Stadium, and he went to the top turnbuckle and like flew off of it on like outside of the ring. And there's a beautiful picture. It's up on my Instagram, and it's all over the place. And it's just like he gets so much height and so much air. It's just like he's just like, and yeah, and he's like this big guy, and he's just doing these crazy things. You're just like, wow, like everyone's taking a picture when he gets up on that top turnbuckle.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mhm.
That's awesome, man. Do you have like anyone like? Is there any matches that come to mind where you think back and you're like, oh, these are like my top 3 matches that I've been a part of?
Uh, yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I haven't really kind of thought about that. Um, I know there's some matches that are like, so back in May we went to Prince George and we did a fan con there, and Bret Hart was there, the Bollywood Boys were there, and there was a match between Heavy Metal and G Sharp, and that was like one of the most incredible hard hitting matches I've ever been a part of. Like I was not prepared going into that match. I didn't realize these two were going to beat each other up so badly. It was an incredible match, and I know like Heavy Metal, or sorry, what's his new name now? Or
Harlan,
I know he's
Harlan Abbott. I mentioned him earlier. He's
yeah, Harlan Abbott.
One of my trainers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just an incredibly talented person, right? And I know that's a match that he's really proud of. That he's kind of gone out and being like, yeah, check out this match that I had with G Sharp. So I'm proud that I was at that match, because that was just, like I said, like I've never seen two people like beat each other so badly before. It was awesome to be a part of, and just witness firsthand and seeing these two professionals, how they work. Later on in that night, we did a main event with MRB and Adam Ryder that went 40, almost 45 minutes. And that was an insane, there was so many moving elements that happened with that. I got bumped a couple times. I took a Pele kick from Adam Ryder that time. I was doing the count. Adam Ryder was on top of MRB for the count. And just as I'm like hit the 2, I go to come up for the 3, and Taryn from the county comes running out, pulls me out of the ring and starts beating me up as well. Like there was just so much happening in that match. I actually had a blast. So that's definitely a match you should check out, just for Adam Ryder and MRB is alone. But like I said, like the more matches I do, the more I feel get better and stuff like that. So like a lot of the stuff that I've did at that Lucha Libre Quattro, I'm really proud of, because you can really see how my speed has kind of picked up a little bit, and I'm a lot more faster with those pins. I started doing this new thing where kind of Cobra Kai was like, instead of just doing a burpee, right, I go down and I do a push-up, and then I jump over, and then I jump over, and I do 3 push-ups, and then I get up and I do a burpee. And so I've been doing that on a daily basis, and that has like insanely made my refereeing game so much better now, just because of those kind of things. Because like I was nervous doing the Lucha show, because these guys are really, really fast, and they do those fast pins, and so yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things about lots of luchadors is they don't speak English. Is language been a barrier during those shows, or is that just something that you kind of, because like wrestling sort of has its own language,
Mm-hmm. I there wasn't, the matches that I was a part of, there wasn't really a language barrier per se. We kind of all knew what we needed to do, so we didn't really have to communicate all that much. I know, like on that show, we had a Microman, and he doesn't speak any English. So there was another guy. His name is Bruce, and he was just kind of in there being the translator between the wrestlers and stuff like that. But I wasn't. Unfortunately, I wanted to be part of Microman's match so bad, so much. He did 2 matches, and I wasn't able to do them, but yeah. So for the Lucha show, like I didn't really have. There wasn't too much of a. That's kind of like when I kind of go in, I have an understanding of what the finish is, and then you just kind of go out and you just kind of do the match the best that you can, and just kind of like wait for those cues, and because like you said, there is a wrestling kind of language, and just kind of the way you look at each other and the way you kind of talk to each other, you kind of understand what's about to happen. So
yeah, there's like, you can sort of read people's body language in a certain way, and then the most matches are they have like, there's a general structure to things and whatnot. So like I can see why it wouldn't be that big of an issue for you. Did they bring in any referees from Mexico to be a part of that?
Not the referees. We did have one referee from Seattle that day. It was just the luchadors that came in that were the referees. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So
I
no.
mean, that kind of makes sense. Like, I think like it would be challenging to get a lot of like travel experience as a referee. Like, have you had any opportunities to ref outside of British Columbia?
Not yet. That's something that I'm working on. I still am fairly new with the thing, so I'm kind of like working the local circuit right now. I'm kind of getting to be known as much as I can. I would really like to go to Alberta, even go to Seattle, kind of like do some of those shows out there. I know I was talking to MRB. I'm going to be in Calgary next month. Let's see, yeah, in October for a period of time. So I know I want to just kind of like go to a couple of the shows and just kind of like introduce myself and kind of see how the scene is over there. But yeah, I definitely do want to start doing more. That's one of the things that I was talking to Zicky about as well. He's been so inspiring of just like how you look at yourself as a business and how you go and you promote yourself. And, first time I talked to him, he was telling me all these stuff. And then I was able to talk to him again last time when he was in town, just being like, hey, that stuff that you said, that really made sense. And it really, got me on the right track. And I was able to do these things because of it. And he was just like, hey, great. And like, just so you know, he's like, you're going to work that one circuit. And then, you're going to get that next round of calls of that next circuit. And then it's going to, and like, that's how it works. And I was like, oh, this is, that's great. Thank you so much for kind of like, to explain to me how it kind of works. So, I know what to focus for. And
that's solid. I'm happy to hear that you're going to be in Calgary. You should come to some of our RCW shows and bring your gear, man. You never know; they'll probably throw you in there.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would absolutely jump at the chance to do that, and because like I love doing this, and we all have to get our 10,000 hours in, and I want to get my 10,000 in, no matter how I have to do it. How you guys want to use me. If I'm just sitting there setting up chairs and helping build the ring, and that's what I'm gonna do. I have no problem doing those things. So but yeah, definitely I'll have my gear ready, and if we don't get to use it, then that's 100% okay, just as long as I get to be there and help out any way that I can.
I like, if you've got guys like Metal and MRB going to bat for you, I mean, I'm pretty sure there won't be any issues there, but I'm not the promoter, so I can't really speak to that. You did talk about setting up the ring and whatnot. What other kind of like backstage responsibilities do you have with WrestleCore and your other places that you've worked?
Right. So I try and be as valuable as possible, right? Like, I don't always have to go and be a referee at a show and stuff like that. So kind of like a little bit of a backstory about myself. I do have a moving company, so I have access to moving trucks and stuff like that. So for WrestleCore, for Glam Slam, I'm the one that's delivering the wrestling ring. I go and I pick it up. I bring it to the venue. I set it up. I take it down. And then when I say I set it up and take it down, there's a whole bunch of volunteers that come out.
Yeah, hopefully they're not making you do that by yourself.
So like I say that very, very loosely, because like I value everyone that comes to those shows and puts in that hard work, because it's not, there really is no such thing as a small role when it comes to wrestling, and when it comes to anything really. So at the role that I try and play backstage or whatever is just kind of like that organization of making sure that the ring gets to the venue on time, that I have volunteers or people there to help, load, unload, build up that ring, make sure it's safe, run those ropes before the show starts, make sure everything's going on. And then, just tearing it down, bringing it back to where it needs to go. So that's been kind of the main thing that I've been trying to do. A lot of times I'll just show up at the shows and just start like setting up the ring. Like NEW, they have their own ring. So I've done their ring for them a few times, but they usually they have a bigger ring than my truck. So usually they do. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So, but it's kind of like making sure that I'm at the venue and helping them set up their ring, or tearing it down if I can't make it there on time. And there's a new promotion that just started on Saturday called Boom Wrestling. And they just got their ring on Thursday, like 3 days before the show. So I was there on Thursday, and I helped it take it off the truck. And then, for 3 days, we built that ring and took it apart, and built that ring and took it apart, and built that ring and took it apart, and made sure that we understood everything about that ring. So come Saturday, if anything were to happen, we would know exactly what to do and exactly how to fix that or whatever. So that's kind of like what I try and do, is I just try and show up at the venue and just try and, do what I need. Do you need me to go work the merch booth? Okay, I'll work the merch booth. I'll set up these chairs. I'll work security. And, if someone takes jumps off the top rope, I can be there to help catch, or, I'll make sure no one runs in, whatever it is. So
Yeah. Yeah. Solid. And I think all that is like really vitally important. Like,
100%.
even as like a wrestler, like I'm going to show up and help you set up the ring and help you tear down the ring and all that kind of stuff, because that's part of the job, like as far as I'm concerned. I mean, sometimes you see guys that are just like off doing their own thing, and they're just chatting away while everybody else is loading the ring, and it's like, who the fuck are these superstars? Like
you definitely get a lot of respect, when people, like, it brings to mind when we were doing the fan con, Santino Morello was there from the WWE, and he was doing announcing, and he had a couple spots in the thing. But the whole point of my story is, at the end of the night, when we were tearing down the ring, he was there right with all of us, tearing down that ring, carrying those boards back. And it left such an impression on every single one of us in that locker room. Like, all of us was talking about it. We still talk. Well, like, I'm talking about it right now. And it was 6 months ago or whatever. Right. So it's important to do those things. Like I said, there's no small role. Like like putting on a show, everyone's involved, everyone has that important role to do. And it's,
I definitely I appreciate that. Like, I know that, like, I've seen pictures from like CWE shows where they had like Jake the Snake, and he was helping on the ring, and like you say, Santino helped on the ring. Well, like, that doesn't surprise me at all, because Santino also like promotes his own shows out in Ontario and stuff. So he knows how valuable and important that is. So the fact that he actually is doing that, as a guy who could totally get away with just standing around and talking amongst themselves, and nobody's going to be like, well, what the fuck does this guy, no one's going to get on, Santino's case about that. Excuse my language. But like he absolutely doesn't have to do that, but still does. And I think that that's really great, because I mean, I kind of I adopted this saying that gratitude is the attitude, and I just think that it's vitally important to show that you're thankful. And one of the ways you can do that is by, helping to set up and be there for whatever happens to be needed. Like, I actually go to pretty much like anytime I'm in town and I'm not like booked on another show, I'm always helping at the LPW shows, just doing the ring, hoping that they're going to book me and whatnot. And I think sooner or later they will, just because, like, you're around and they see you 100%. And they see how hard you work and stuff. So like, I think that's a good way of also like getting booked, like, because like people will say, oh, like if someone asks, oh, how's Joe King? People will be like, oh, well, Joe King's awesome. He's a good referee, and he'll help with the teardown, and he'll help with the ring. Like, I think that's all like super important. Have you ever done like ring announcing or any other like roles performing on shows, managing or anything like that?
No, not in wrestling. I've only just played the referee role. With that being said, I am talking with other promotions about different roles of where Joe King could kind of go, right? So like, I'm kind of excited about this idea that's been kind of like, I've been kind of tossing around and stuff like that. But no, as of right now, it's just that kind of referee.
Yeah, I know, because I was just talking about Love Wrestling, and we have a referee out here called Ben Uman, and he actually transitioned from being a referee to a ringside manager for Mitch Clark and his boys, the Rads,
That's
and
awesome.
he's done a tremendous job. Do you work on like when you're at training and stuff? Do you work on like promos or character work or anything like that?
Yes. That's definitely, like, I think everyone works on their promos. They see a mirror and they just cut a promo all of a sudden. Um, yeah. So, uh, sorry,
Oh
I've
no,
never seen
apologies.
a
Yes, sorry.
referee, like, kind of like with my role as a referee, and how I'm doing things is like I'm kind of testing out new waters here, right? Because you don't really see that referee with like you know, no sleeves and being a big guy, an authoritative guy and stuff like that, right? So it's like
Mhm.
you never really see the focus on that referee or how it is, but now I kind of have this character around it and stuff like that, where like for WrestleCore I'm the head referee, and you know what show, yeah, so for the Circus of Death, it was kind of like the show where we had like some clowns, some evil clowns, and you know it was going to get really crazy and stuff like that, right? And I go,
Yeah.
I should cut a promo, but like I've never seen a referee cut a promo before, and like what would that look like for a referee to cut a promo, and you know, so yeah, I kind of played around with it, and I recorded a couple promos, and then I sent it off, and I said, hey, like, what do you guys think of this promo? And they absolutely loved it, so I went and I posted it, and you know, I got a really good response from it, and you know, so then for the Lucha show, I sat there and I did another promo, and I kind of made it a little bit more funny because like I'm not Spanish and I don't know Spanish. Well, I know, well, anyways, for the promo, and it was just kind of, I was able to play around with it, but still kind of like play that authoritative figure and stuff like that. So I think everything that I do in my life, I try and it's about my brand, it's about my product, of how I can do better. Like I sit there and I take a disco class with my partner, of just kind of like learning how my body works differently and the different body parts, and you know, like I feel that really helps my in-ring, you know, personality or how I move and stuff like that. And so yeah, like I think every day there's little things that I'll do where I'll kind of, yeah, like I said, like see a mirror and kind of, hey brother, blah 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 blah, and you know, play that dynamic. You know, what would a heel kind of say? What would a baby face kind of say? How would someone that kind of like you don't really know who they are yet, you know, how would they cut a promo? And you know, what if I cut a promo where, you know, I'm holding back a secret and you can tell I'm holding back a secret, but I don't really, you know, like it's just fun just to kind of, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Like I personally like love doing promos and stuff. I think that's like a really underrated thing that not a lot of like indie guys do. And
Mhm.
the fact that you're doing it as a referee, that I mean, I just like I feel like it's a matter of time until you become a wrestler. Like that's the impression I'm getting here.
Yeah, like if you ask Steve, he definitely wants to put me in a couple matches, right? And he's talked about some people that I could do the matches with. So like I've always been like, oh no, like I can't wrestle. Like I'm not like I have done training, and but I'm not a very good wrestler, and I can admit that. You know, like I bump dirty, and um but like the people that he suggested that I actually do a match with, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, actually, you know, I've been in the ring with these people. I see the way that they work, and yeah, I'm very open to doing that. You know, like I've done little spots with both of these wrestlers before, and we've had a lot of fun, and you know, so I could see myself possibly doing a match or so, but like I can't see myself being like there's so many good talent, especially in the Pacific Northwest. You know, there's no way that I can compete with the people that are being produced right now. You know, like we have the Lionsgate Dojo that are just you know, producing some amazing talent in the BC area right now. So it's like yeah, if I were to do a match, it would just be a fun little gimmick, you know, couple minute match where we kind of, you know, but yeah.
Do something like what was it? It was like Hogan and Bischoff against Jay Leno and DDP, like that kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, that'd be
exactly. So like
cool.
I'll never say never, right? Like I said, like if the promoter wants one thing, I'm gonna do that thing, you know.
Yeah.
So
but I also do know, like, from personal experience, like, I started off wanting to do like one match, and then I did the one match, and then I was like, now I want to do a good match, and I'm still working on it.
Me and you both. Like, I want to do that one good match too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have seen another thing like that we kind of just talked about is with your brand and whatnot. Is I mentioned earlier that I've noticed you on Twitter, and even Colton was telling me that your Joe King persona was kind of developed for Twitter. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Um. Well. So. Okay. That's a little bit interesting for me. I'm not too. When I first came out with Joe King, this was right before the pandemic happened. I was like, oh, I'm gonna, start up my own social. I'm gonna promote this thing, and then the pandemic happened. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't really have any content because like I'm brand new to this, right? Like, I was brand new to the burlesque scene. I was brand new to the wrestling scene, so I didn't really have videos. I didn't have pictures of myself. So it's like, how do I continue this social media when I have no content? And this was with my Instagram. So what I did is I kind of changed it. I took a little bit of a pivot and I turned it to Joe King memes. And I just like put out 10 daily memes. And then on my stories, I just did these like 15-second videos, of like funny things. And then myself, I started learning, how to do, transitions and stuff with like, where you like don't have a mustache and then you do have a mustache. And, so I started having fun with this. And I was doing that throughout that whole pandemic, which is kind of like finding out who Joe King was as well, because this was a brand new character for myself at this time. Not necessarily like the wrestler aspect, just kind of like who I was as a performer, because, I feel like I have a range of who my character is, like when you see me Joe King the referee, I'm a much more stern kind of person where if you break the rules are going to break you, kind of a thing. But then like I was saying before, my wife, she's a burlesque performer and producer, so she puts on a lot of big shows at like the Rio Theater in Vancouver, where there's it seats over 400 people, and she gets me to kind of like do a little bit of stagehand work and stuff like that, right? So it's a lot more, I get to kind of play around with the funner side of the character as well. So so during that whole pandemic, that first year of the pandemic, was just me kind of like figuring out who Joe King was and playing around and having fun with the name, right? Because Joe King, it sounds like Joe King. And and then as the pandemic opened up and as it was more clear of I was able to sit down with Steve and because at the end of 2020 I didn't really like where I was, my physicalness of where I was, and I really started cutting out like things in my life, and I really took working out really, really seriously, and I went to really change who I was and what I look like. And there's a lot of times like in WrestleCore, the matches are anywhere between 8 to 12 minutes, right? So if I can't do cardio for 12 minutes, there's a problem, right? And so like you kind of got to take care of these things as a referee. So I really started kind of like working on myself like that. So then at Halloween, Steve really kind of saw the physical change that I had done with my body, and he wanted to take me on and do WrestleCore and really shine and put the spotlight on myself. So at that point, I was able to kind of like have more of an idea of where I was going at when we opened up and stuff like that. So I was really able to kind of like change my character work a little bit, narrow it down, really start on my Twitter game, and doing stuff like that. And so that when I was able to introduce Joe King referee to the world, I tried to have as much of my socials and everything kind of ready to go and ready to take on those tasks. So
solid. When you buckled down on your physical fitness and your diet and whatnot, like, did any of the guys, like the wrestlers and stuff, help you out with that? Did they give you advice or any pointers or anything like that?
Yeah. So this was like right in the middle of the pandemic where everyone was kind of like huddling around and stuff like that. So like I talk about Steve or Cobra Kai a lot. Like that guy's really been a mentor to me, and like I question anything that I have, I always like really run it past him. Um, so he was the one that really kind of helped me out. I read a book during the pandemic. It was called Atomic Habits, and it that book really changed how I looked at things, and it was really like breaking things down to like the smallest thing, right? So at this time, like I just knew that I needed to get in shape, and I knew where I needed to go, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I had a certain amount of time to get ready for this particular thing. So because like as soon as the pandemic opened, I wanted to be ready, and be ready to be in that ring and be ring ready and stuff like that. Because, back in 2019, 2020, I was in shape and I could do those things, and I saw myself kind of like come out of shape, and so it was like force myself to get into those things. So kind of like going back to like just even reading that book of Atomic Habits, it was just like, hey, what are some small things that I can kind of adjust and take out, right? And one of them was like, stop ordering pizzas, right? So I stopped ordering pizza, and then it was kind of like go to the gym every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And, if you don't want to go to the gym, then just put your shoes on at least, or just go to, like, I'm lucky I have a gym in my building, and it's like go to the gym and at least stretch then if you don't want to work out. And by the time you get there, you want to do a little bit more, and you want to do a little bit more. And I was just like really strict of these small little changes that I made to kind of like make sure that I was ready. So like I'm always trying to take advice. I'm always trying to, like that one thing where like that burpee where you go down, you do a burpee, and then you jump 3 times and you do 3 push-ups. So why didn't you jump up? Like that advice has just like completely changed my game altogether, right? Like I was doing burpees as much as I can. I was doing squats. I was doing everything that I could. And then I started doing that exercise, and I immediately changed in the ring, And I think that's one thing as well that, when you hear like, oh, ring ready, like you'll see that on WWE is like, oh, he's been off for a while. Is he ring ready and stuff like that, right? You're like, what does that truly mean, right? And I think, you can sit there and you can lift weights and you can look as good as you can, and you can hit your cardio and you can be as good as your cardio. But as soon as you hit those ropes, that is a whole new world, brother. And like, what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's very different.
100% different, right? And it's like, yeah, like just doing cartwheels and flips and stuff like that, right? It discombobulates you, right? You have to be ready to take on those things and prepare yourself so that when you do those, you know exactly where you are and that you are ring ready. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can get as ready as you can, but there's that ring ready that you need to have going into anything. Because, yeah.
I know, like, for myself, like, I started fairly late in the game. Like, I didn't actually become a wrestler till I was, like, 36 years old. And, or maybe it was 34. Anyway, I was in my 30s when I started becoming a wrestler because I just never thought it could. And then, like, somebody, like, I think it was a buddy of mine, like, posted a thing about, like, mindset. And it just kind of clicked with me. And I was like, okay, well, all you got to do is put in some effort here. So just, yeah, like you say, you break it down into small little things, and eventually, like, you get better and better as you go along, right? That's the idea anyway. Have you had any struggles with like injuries or anything like that?
Luckily not in the ring. Nothing that would like take me out for a while or anything like that. While I was training or like working out and stuff like that, just kind of like doing that at what I could to get ready for the ring myself. I came across a few injuries where I'd have to like readjust what my workout was or how I did my workout. Like my right leg, I hurt my tendon in like behind my right knee, and it just hurt so bad. And I like for like 6 months I was out and I couldn't really do the workout that I used to do. So then I was at that point, it was kind of like change my workout and keep working on this and kind of like nurse this at the same time. And so but I've been really lucky, like you said, like I got into this really late as well. I am 42 right now. I started training when I was 39. I started training when I was 39. The first match that I did was in my 40s. So yeah, that was kind of like one of the things that I'm concerned about as well. Like, can I keep up with some of the people that are in the ring right now? And, how do I do things safely so that I don't injure myself? It kind of like also goes like knowing the fundamentals. So you know to stay out of the way, learn how to take a bump, like, Do things that you're comfortable with. Like if you don't know how to do something, tell them, hey, I don't know how to do that. Let's work a different way of this bump or something like that, right? Like that's so important to work with your strengths.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard is that like wrestling is like making music, but the thing is you get to choose your notes. So like I mean me, I obviously like I've got a torn ACL in one of my knees, and
Mhm.
it needs to be surgically repaired and whatnot. So there's a few things that I just like I movements that I try to avoid just because I know that might set it off. Just mostly like jumping and landing on my feet.
Mhm.
So typically I try to avoid that sort of thing, which is, uh, it sucks because I'd like to be able to do those things, but also like uh, I'm creative enough to work around it. So yeah, I just wanted to find out if you had to deal with anything like that. And I'm sorry to hear about your knee. I'm glad that it seems
Oh,
to be on the mend though.
yeah. No, I'm 100% back now. So, yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was, but yeah, like you said, like kind of going into any match, you kind of, hey, let's do this. No, I want to avoid that because of this. And, because you want to, it's, you go out there and, you be safe and you have fun. But the first thing you say is be safe. Right. And,
Yeah.
if you have a torn ACL or whatever it is, like avoid that. Like you don't want to go out there and physically get hurt.
No.
Like you have to protect yourself, and like for a lot of this is a career for a lot of people, and this is how they make their money. So you don't want to be doing stupid things in that ring. Like
No.
so it's 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that 100% because like I say, yeah, you gotta like you get to choose your notes, which is because it's all about creativity, and I think that sometimes limitations can increase your creativity,
Oh, for
like
sure.
yeah. Anyway, we are approaching the hour point here, so I'm going to just ask people where can people get a hold of you, or like find you on Twitter if they'd like to book you to referee on their shows and stuff. Where can people do that?
That's awesome. Right now you can just go Joe King Referee or at Joe King Referee. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter with that handle. If you're not on Instagram or Twitter, you can just go Joe King Referee at gmail.com. And yeah, those will be the three main ways that you can get a hold of me, or like, yeah, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter and just kind of see what I'm up to and the different things, different shows that we're going on and doing. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome, buddy. When is your next big matches for the WrestleCore thing? Is the Halloween event?
Yeah, so November 4th, we're doing Horror on Hastings, which is kind of like the big show of WrestleCore. It's kind of like where your nightmares come true. It's an absolutely crazy spectacle. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make that show. I'm really upset that I can't make that show, but my cousin's getting married, and that's very important to me. Family's always important.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I will be missing that show, but I will be back next season with WrestleCore. My next show is November 19th. I believe, and that's with Glam Slam. Now, like I said, pay attention to Instagram and Twitter because I am talking with a couple of promotions right now on a couple of dates. I don't really want to say any of those dates right now because nothing's ever
locked
for sure.
down. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to advertise things that are not locked down.
Exactly.
That's
But definitely if you're in Vancouver for November 4th, get tickets to Horror on Hastings. Like that's going to be an amazing show with or without me.
yeah. I'd love to go and check it out for sure. I'd love to be on the show. It'd be dope.
Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
yeah. And like I say, I hope that when you do come to Calgary, that maybe perhaps you'll get to referee one of my matches. That'd
Oh,
be
that would be
awesome.
awesome. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
I would really enjoy that.
Yeah, so would I. So I'm gonna just say thank you a lot for joining me on the show today, and hopefully you'll get your name out there. You'll get more experience. You'll get to wrestle all over the place and live the dream.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for like opening up your, your followers and let me have this hour to kind of chat and ramble on for a little bit. And yeah, thank you
It's
so much, man. I really
That's
appreciate it.
that's the dream, bro. Like
You
that's what we
betcha.
do here. Yeah, just I'm very much like people may have noticed, but Monday Night Shaw is literally like I turn on the camera and we chat for an hour about wrestling, and I don't usually do much research or anything because I figure I can ask you about those sort of things on the show, and then people
Yeah.
that don't know you can get to know you just like me. So
Exactly. Yeah, I loved it. This was fun. I didn't know
yeah,
where we were going to go today, but I knew we were going to have fun getting there. So,
yeah, right
thanks for
on.
opening that up and having that channel that we can do that with on.
Thank you. And listeners, I appreciate you tuning in. And next week or next episode in 2 weeks, we're going to have Colton G on here. So it should be good times. Actually, you know what? I was wrong about that. You're going to be right after Colton G because we're gonna record that interview today, but still put it in the spot that it was supposed to be in when it was recorded about a week ago.
Yeah, and
So
and Colton G's an amazing referee. Like, he's full of knowledge. I've asked him so many questions as well. So you guys are bound to have a great conversation.
yeah, we had a
There's,
we had a pretty good one there the last time, so I'm looking forward to the re-recording.
yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to listening to it. So
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank
awesome,
you very
buddy.
much, and I will talk to you later.
All right, cool, man. Talk to you soon.